Hello, and welcome to Board Games and Coffee. Today I'm going to be sharing my initial impressions of several new releases at Essen Spiel this October. So, a few things to know about this video. First of all, in this video, all of these games haven't been released yet. I don't have physical copies of these games, and there aren't as many visuals, but if you'd like, you can listen to the podcast. I do a podcast of the live episode and publish that every week. If a podcast is your style of consuming this news, you can find a link to the podcast in the description. Secondly, if you are watching live, then this is very interactive. In just a minute, I'm going to show you the list of all of the board games I have to discuss with you. And if you have any requests or you'd like me to share my impressions of a specific game, you're welcome to share that in the comments. And if it's live, I will try to address it during the show. And if it's after this has already been published, I will get this in part 2 or one of the later episodes. And then thirdly, I wanted to talk about how I selected the games for this video. So I wanted to kind of take a haphazard approach because what I don't like is just addressing all the trendiest games, on Board Game Geek, on YouTube, etc. In fact, for this episode, never have I watched other reviewers to get their impressions before doing my own review. I like very much to do things without having any bias from somebody else's opinion. So I haven't been consuming other news releases on YouTube or watching any other reviewers. Really, the resource that I'm using is the Board Game Geek preview. Now, if you'd like to find a list of all of the games that are coming out at Essen this year, you can find a link to that in the description. But what I've tried to do is sort of randomly select games, because I do want to get some of the hot games, but I'd also really like to get some games that you might not have heard of otherwise. So I mess with the sort, and I sort things by publisher, or I sort things by interest, or I sort things sometimes by hotness on the website, but I just try to get games from anywhere. I have looked up some of the publishers that I've reviewed games for in the past, games that I've liked before, but I've also selected games that I probably would not have looked at otherwise. And I've learned about them by reading rulebooks. So that's my idea of a good time. I sit by myself and I read a rulebook, and then I kind of form my impressions of what I think about the game and whether or not I think it's innovative or would be fun to play based on reading the rulebook. So no videos, no reviews for influencing me, just reading rulebooks and trying to get a variety of things. That being said, I have not played these games. I've only read the rulebooks. And so what I have to say about this, take it or leave it. I'm not going to know for sure until I play it. I've been wrong before, right? I have definitely played games that I thought I wasn't going to be impressed by and really fallen in love with it. So I might say a few things that I'll take back later, but that's okay. These are initial impressions, and I hope to share a little bit of insight into what I've learned from reading several dozen rulebooks. So, that being said, let me show you what I've read so far. So, these are the games that are on the table for discussion today, and I'll spend about 2 or 3 minutes talking about a few of them. I'm only going to do a few today. We'll make this video about 20-25 minutes long. So, Agent Avenue, Agree to Disagree, Atoll, Black Forest, Civolution, Fishing, Smoothie Wars, Tea Garden, Through Ice and Snow, Gardlings, Sparks, and Nocturne. Those are the games. So, I'm going to start things off with Gardlings. I wanted to start with this one because this was probably my favorite discovery so far. This is a game I absolutely want to get my hands on and try out because I love family games, as you know, and this one is it's smart, it's clever, and it features simultaneous gameplay. So let me tell you a little bit how it goes. This is, if you've ever played Quacks of Quedlinburg, in Gardlings, players are building a garden of different creatures. There's dragons and gnomes and what's some of the artwork? Fanciful things. And what they do is they're drawing tiles from a bag, and each tile they draw, they place it down, forming, tiles next to each other, like dominoes. They're putting tiles next to each other like dominoes. And when they put tiles next to each other in such a way that the gemstones match, they get a gem, which counts towards a point at the end of the round. And so you can keep doing this, drawing more and more dominoes and placing dominoes. I'm going to call it dominoes for simplicity, so that you can get as many gems as possible. Now, every single domino has a creature on it that has some sort of special ability, so you get to utilize that, much like Wax of Quedlinburg, by the way. But some of those dominoes have gnomes on them, and if you get 5 gnomes, then you immediately have to stop drawing, and the gang of gnomes steals 3 gems from you. Now, that is a much lighter consequence than playing Quacks of Quedlinburg, I think. So I think it's not as punishing of a game, but it does have that push your luck element where you can draw as many tiles as you want, but once you draw that 5th one, you're forced to stop. So how much farther do you push the limit? That's what this game is about. I love simultaneous gameplay, and I also really love the tile placing element of this game. I also think the artwork is really nice. So I'm very interested in Gardlings. The next one we'll do, I'll just go along my line, Sparks. So this is also from the same publishers, Gardlings, Alion Games, and Sparks is very similar to the game Sagrada, if you've played Sagrada before. It's actually a dice drafting game, and each round there are going to be some dice that are rolled, and they come out, and they're placed in a line. And then the active player can play a token on how many dice they want to take from that line. Now, once the token is played, it's lost. So they have to be smart about when they spend their largest token. You want to spend it when the dice are really best of all. And then you take from one side or the other. And then after you've taken your dice, every other player takes a die. And then everyone gets to put their die on their boards. And you're either completing robots or you're doing an upgrade. So you can add dice of different colors to perform an upgrade. And this game is very similar to Raising Robots. Where is it? Raising Robots. So what I like about it, though, is very stripped down. It's way simpler. You don't have to worry about card drafting in this game. You don't have to worry about resource management. It's simply dice drafting and dice placement. So I think the objective of the game is a lot more clear, which makes the game friendlier for people with families. And then once you complete a robot, you score the points for the robot, and you draw a new card, and that becomes a new objective. So it's not like you have to really focus on so many. There's a higher degree of luck, but I imagine this game would be very fluid, which is why I'm excited about this one as well. All right, the next game here, Nocturne. Let's do a game that isn't just for the families. So Nocturne, hold on, I'm going to turn on my... It's like getting hot in my office. All right, hopefully that isn't too loud with the air blowing. All right, let's talk about Nocturne now. Nocturne is a really... It's a pretty neat twist on a bidding game, very similar to Raw. So what's happening is on your turn, you start a bid for a tile, but unlike Raw, for example, where just a tile comes out and everybody takes turns bidding on it, there is a grid of tiles to bid on. So you can select a tile, and then let's say you put a bid on it, you bid 3 for one tile. Now, when I say 3, it's simply a token that you're placing. It's not like you're spending currency. Everybody starts the game with certain tokens with numbers on them, and once the token is spent, the token is lost by the player. So let's say the player puts a 3 on it. Well, the next player has an option of bidding more on an adjacent tile or passing, So if everybody passes, the player with the highest bid takes the tile they've put it on. But assuming that somebody wants another tile with a higher bid, let's say they put a 4 on an adjacent tile. So what's interesting about this game, I've never seen this before, you're bidding, and you have to bid higher, but you're bidding on a different tile than the person who went before you. And then once you place your bid, the next player has to bid by placing adjacent to you. So you're actually moving around the board. Every time you raise the bid, you have to, 1, have a higher value, and 2, have a tile adjacent to the last placed bid. Then when that's all done, only the person with the highest bid wins. So regardless of what the first bid was, the person with the last bid is the one who takes the tile. Then all of the tiles that were placed on the board get flipped over. So there is those are also lost on the game. They get to move. Let's see if I got this right. They get to move one tile over to a forest grove, and then there is a drafting at the end of the round. I might be flubbing that up a little bit. The core idea of bidding on a different tile by placing adjacent is very, very interesting. I think this is a cool game. I think it's got a really neat new twist on bidding and so much strategy, according to, like, you're not just deciding on value, but also adjacencies. And you can do some really interesting things. For example, if you are putting yourself on a tile that's adjacent to one but in the corner of the grid so that there is no other adjacent tile, then you just automatically get it because no one can place after you. Or, alternatively, if the tile that you win leaves another tile completely isolated, then you can just win the isolated tile automatically, because in this game, whoever wins the bid is the first player of the next bid. And if there's ever a tile that's isolated, then that's an automatic win for you, if it was isolated in the previous round. There's a few asterisks about that, but I'm not going to go in depth about the rules. The idea is it's a really clever mechanic. I was not very impressed with the art. I think that the wildlife, this is a game where all of the characters are foxes, and they made the foxes like hyper real, like very realistic foxes wearing clothes. Whereas you look at a game like Everdell or something where the animals are all cartoons, they look like something on a Disney film. Like I kind of actually like that more. It's more fanciful. I thought it was weird that these are like hyper realistic foxes, but artwork aside, and the fact that I don't really like bidding games all that much, I think it's a really neat new idea. So that's Nocturne. So let's set that one aside. And again, if you're just joining us, I've got a list of all the games that I've read rulebooks for already. If any one of these is of interest to you, go ahead and make a suggestion, and I can jump ahead to that one. So we'll go next to Atoll. Oh, I gotta refresh my mind on Atoll. Oh, that's right. This is the one where. Okay, so you're buying a coral or an animal card every single round, and you're adding it to your tableau. So this is a tableau builder game where you're going to have a checkerboard of coral or animals, and then you can activate these cards, or you can utilize the effects of these cards to make your atoll more valuable. So you can pay to increase the population of an animal, or you can utilize, let's see, what are some of the effects? There's some things with symbiosis, or you can hunt with one card, which is like one predator animal kills a prey animal in order to increase its population. Or you can generate food, or there's pollution in this game. So the way that I would think of Atoll is it has a very strong resemblance to Evolution, the game Evolution, because you've got predators and prey, and when the predators feed, they consume a prey animal, whether that belongs to you or to another player. And what else did I write here? Production is up. Oh, no, that's. At the end of the end round, you can choose to have income. So at the end of, so it just reminds me a lot of Evolution with like a tile placing element. I wasn't really too excited because of the drafting thing. I'm sort of over drafting games, and I'm really over ocean games. They have a lot of ocean games. Suddenly, it seems. Atoll was not. I guess the idea is it's an engine builder, because as you have more tiles, you can get more and more powerful moves. But when a tile gets utilized, it receives fatigue, or sometimes you experience pollution, and then pollution will deactivate a tile. In order to clear up the pollution, you have to use another tile's benefit. So I guess in that way, they've done a really good job of establishing an ecosystem with your tile tableau. But I'm sort of over like environmental games, so nothing really stood out to me about this one. All right, where are we going right now? 16 minutes. I probably got time for 2 or 3 more. Black Forest. Okay, so this is going to be a big release from Uwe Rosenberg, and this is the really big thing about Black Forest is that it has this interesting resource management. So you've got 2 gears, or 2 clock-looking devices, and the clock is split into 2 sectors. So in one sector, you have all of your basic resources, and they move up the clock. Let's see, they move up the clock clockwise. So every time you get more, I can't remember the wood or something, you move it up 1 clockwise. All right, so you're moving up, moving up, moving up. Then on the other sector of the clock, you have the manufactured goods, the upgraded resources, right? So glass is over there, and commodities are over there. And so they increase by moving to the left, counterclockwise, right? So what happens is, if at any point there is both missing advanced... Oh, this is so hard to describe. You should look at a picture of this. I should have put one on in the video if I could have. If at any time your maximum upgraded commodities is lacking, or you don't have the maximum upgraded commodities, and simultaneously you don't have the least amount of basic commodities, does that make sense? You have more than 0 basic commodities, and you have less than 3 advanced commodities. Then what happens is the clock advances. Tick. And so what happens when the clock ticks is that immediately all of your basic commodities decrease, and all of your advanced commodities increase. Okay, I probably did a horrible job explaining that. Here's a basic way. In this game, let's say there's 4 or 5 basic commodities. Well, whenever all of them are non-zero, you immediately produce one of the advanced commodities. Immediate and required production. But rather than going through the process of like, okay, 1 wood, 1 clay, 1 stone, instead of exchanging it, because it's on a track, you just click it, and it's exactly equivalent to subtracting 5 from the basic commodities and adding 1 to all of the advanced commodities. That's what you're doing, and you have 2 of those wheels because they manage different things, and it's a really cool way to track what it is that you're producing. Other than that, it is worker placement. So you are putting workers, or I guess it's a worker. You have a worker who's moving around a town, and you pay to advance them or to move them into a different town, and you must move every single turn. If you don't move on a turn, you have to take a begging card, which gives you basically food so you can move on a different turn. All said, well, I think that the resource management device is super cool. I think it's so clever whenever there's like an intuitive and neat way to manage resources. This is one of the least impressive designs from Uwe Rosenberg. And he's not alone in this one. It's a collaboration between him and somebody else. It seems to me like a very dry, just exchanging some resources for other resources. So when I look at this game, I think, wow, it's so neat. Like, look at, they got the clock and everything's advanced. That's so neat. It's so different from anything I've ever seen before. It's very impressive. But the question I'm asking myself is this a game I'm going to keep playing for years to come? And I don't think so. I don't think that this is a game I'm going to play like 3 times if I owned it. I'm probably not going, well, I don't have to say probably. I'm not going to buy this game. All right. How much more do we have time for? We got 3 viewers. We have 20 minutes. I guess I'll do one more. So what's the next one? Agent Avenue. Okay, this is a 2-player game. So in this 2-player game, you are spies in a neighborhood, and you're spying on each other, and you're on a track. And you start the game on opposite sides of the track. And it's a circular track. So as you go around, you can eventually pass your opponent. And if you ever catch up to or pass your opponent, then you win the game. You're trying to play catch-up. But the thing is, it's a circular path. They're moving and you're moving at the same time. So if during the course of the game you were making exactly the same progress, you would never catch up. You would just rotate around the center of the board. But, of course, there's some strategy in order to catch up on your opponent. So here's how the game goes. It is a I cut, you choose sort of thing. So you have a hand of cards. You pick 2 cards. One card is going to be shown face down, the other one is shown face up. So you put these 2 cards in front of your opponent and you say, choose one. If they choose the face up card, they know what they're getting, and of course they can take the face down card too, but then it's a complete surprise. What they're trying to do is get cards that will allow them to advance on the track. Now, all of these cards have different abilities. Generally, it's set collection. So as an idea, one of these cards, like the first card you get, you move once. And then the second time you get this card, you move twice. And then the third card you get of this type, you maybe move 3 times. But another one could be completely different, the number it counts. And as you collect these sets, you're placing them face up in front of you. So both opponents can kind of see what the other person needs. And I guess the cool thing about the game is, how do you present an offer that will trick them into taking something that isn't so good? And so there's kind of this mind game going on. Do I take the face up card or the face down card? And you keep doing this throughout the game until somebody catches up. The cards all have effects, which is cool. I don't usually play a lot of 2-player games. Usually when I go to a game night, I'm playing with a bunch of people. If I'm playing with my kids, I have 2 kids that play games with me, and my wife's like, I want multiplayer games, but I really thought this was a neat 2-player game. If I was a 2-player game player, I would go for this. I really thought it was a neat mind game. So that's what we've got today. Again, if you are watching this after it's being published, then do leave me a comment if there is anything being released in Essen Spiel this year that you'd like me to cover. I will try to get that next time. I will say things are going to be a little sporadic over the next couple of weeks leading up to the convention, because I'm going to be trying to make more videos. I'm not going to just be posting at my normal time, at least not until after the convention. So apologies for those of you who try to catch me at my normal time. It's just going to be a little different for the time being. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you next time.